We just pulled into Cartagena Marina. What an incredible place to arrive. The harbour is calm, the light is perfect, and we got 3 new crew members joining us here and 1 stepping off. I'm Anna Lil and he's Dean, and between us we got one dream, one Bali 4.6 called Queen Lizzy 2, and a very long to-do list. We're Australian, we probably should have known better, and we're sailing in the Mediterranean anyway. Come along for everything, the good, the chaotic, and the absolutely beautiful. It is always exciting with new crew members, fresh faces, fresh energy on board. But honestly, before we even think about provisioning and leaving, we have to go and see the Roman amphitheatre. I mean, it's just sitting right here in the middle of the city. Finally off the boat. Trying to figure out where we're going to be in the old town. Beautiful areas here. Looking at the map.
The Teatro Romano di Catania, Cartagena.
Over 2,000 years old, and it's stunning. You walk in and you just stop. It really puts things into perspective. We then spent the afternoons wandering the old streets and soaking it all in. And if you want to come along for the ride, make sure to follow us. With 3 new crew on board, the provisioning list just got a whole lot longer. Luckily, the market is a perfect excuse to walk Calle Mayor, the main street here in Cartagena, paved in beautiful blue marble tiles that run right down the center. Honestly, even a grocery run feels pretty special when this is your commute. And we are getting ready to leave Cartagena. It's been a few beautiful days here. And before we leave the marina, we're going to hoist the code 0, which we haven't really used yet, so that's going to be really interesting. So Dean is tying on the sheets. And Scott is ready to hoist it up and make sure that we can use it as soon as we get out there. Hoping that the wind is right, of course. We'll see.
But every sunset tells us we're exactly where we should be.
It's better getting the code 0 up now than out there. Although we don't even know if there will be enough wind today.
Okay,
Crossing fingers and hoping for the best.
there you go.
Crooked line from Sydney to the Med and beyond the setting sun. We won't stop sailing till we're finally home, 1 mile at a time.
Just hold there.
The charts are spread.
It's a little bit of grey morning in Cartagena.
It's gone cold. We're learning every lesson this blue water told.
We're going to the refueling dock, and what do we see? Sun going out. How great is that?
This is Anil and Dean, and this is living free. Some days the wind sings, some days it roars, some days we're free. This is living free. Some days the wind.
The morning might have been grey, but the day really cleared up. We had an absolute cracker of a day. Beautiful seas, beautiful sun, and we are now on our way to Santa Pola. The local fishing boat is keeping us company, and the wind is favourable, so we have the code 0 up. Yay! It's been a long time since we were able to do that.
Chasing the horizon, crooked line from Sydney to the Med.
And here's Santa Pola jumping out in the water. Look at them. Look, they're all happy. And the water is like 22 degrees. Oh, sorry, 29.
Plenty of points.
And yes, I'm still on land. I've just been in the water too, but I'll jump out again.
about it being stuck at high tide, which was the problem we always get in with Sundays. You'd bring the boat in and then the tide would go out and you'd have half a mile to drag pulling the boat out to keep the tide line. Yeah.
But it would be interesting to try to get the dinghy onshore once and just see how the wheels work.
We'll try it out. We'll definitely try it.
So we now left Santa Paula, and Dean and Scotty has been up already. I'm up as well. A few of the ladies are sleeping and having a sleep in. We're looking at the beautiful sun coming up, and we're sailing to close to Denia, where we're going to spend the night, and then we're going to shoot over to Formentera tomorrow. Here we are. We have now come to Cala Portixol. It's just after Benidorm, but before Denia, which we're going to spend the night before we shoot over to Formentera. And here's Melissa. Say hi.
Hello. Hi.
And here's Dean.
Hello.
Can't see him too much because of the backlight, but that's
You see
okay.
me too much.
And out here somewhere we got somebody on a paddleboard. It's beautiful over there. But look, about 1 o'clock. It's so gorgeous here. Look at this.
It's just like being in the Mediterranean, isn't it?
This is the first taste of a Mediterranean lifestyle. It's Saturday. There's boats everywhere. Wonderful. And it is fantastic. And who could have believed we just had a storm 20 minutes earlier? And we're all waiting for our drinks. Yes. Smile.
This is how you do it.
This is.
Only in the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Well, here we are today. We're actually on the Queen Lizzy 1 in the Whitsundays. We're back in Australia over the European winter. And we're catching up on all of our editing.
It's a lot.
In this episode, we had a few dramas. Of course, any boat has a few dramas. Of the entire 7 months we had in the Mediterranean, this week we had 2, and the rest of the time was all no problems. We had no dramas at all. So to set the scene, we were about 10 nautical miles south of Denia in Spain. So we had already gone past Gibraltar into the Mediterranean, and we were heading up the coast, the Spanish coast, aiming to, in the next day or two, start sailing across to Mallorca. We had some guests with us.
Correction, Ibiza.
Ibiza, that's right, Ibiza. We were heading to Ibiza. And we stopped at a little bay for the evening. I can't remember it now, but it'll come up on the screen.
It's called Cala Portixol.
What she said. Very nice little bay. We stopped there. It was very hot, 35 degrees Celsius. And we aimed to stay there for the evening. It was about...
For the night, actually.
For the night.
For the night, yes.
We were on anchor. We were in about 20 metres of water. We have our nice big 45 kilo ultra anchor, which is, as you'll hear from this story, both a blessing and a curse. About 7 p.m. we were all sitting out there. I had the generator running. We had some issues with our batteries not completely charging from our alternators, which I'd yet to investigate. So I had the generator on. Next minute, we lost all power on the boat. Nothing. No 12 volt, no 240 volt, nothing. Dead boat. So I got into the engine bay where the battery management systems are, and I could see and many little red lights flashing alarms. The Servo GX was showing alarms. I had no idea what to do to fix it.
And what he forgets to mention here is that while this was happening, while we discovered this, there were big clouds rolling in and wind rolling in, and we can see lightning, a little bit further down. And we were in a very quiet little bay, very protected, but it didn't feel very protected at that moment because the waves came rolling in from the wrong angle, and some really big black clouds were just pooling above us.
Yeah. So after much investigating and a lack of answers as to what the problem was, I couldn't work out how to stop, how to get the electrics back on, couldn't work out why the error messages were going off. It was just getting various alarms saying the battery management system had shut down. We learnt a lot as a result of this, and I'll take you through what we learnt. Now, unfortunately, we didn't film any of this. We weren't as great on the YouTube filming thing at that stage.
And frankly, we were too busy trying to make sure the boat was safe.
Yes. With no power on the boat, you can't do much. We have fresh water, of course, in the tanks, but with no power, you have no water pump, so no fresh water. No toilets, because we have fresh water toilets.
And electric toilets.
Electric toilets. So no toilets. We had 3 other crew on board, another couple and their 20-something-year-old daughter, and no power, and evening coming, and a possible storm coming. So we contacted Denia Marina, fantastic marina, and they said, yes, we can accept you in even though we are full, but you can come in because you have no systems. We had no navionics, no nothing.
And we had cell phones, but note to self, always keep a charge up power bank for your cell phones, because we're down to like 5 or 10% on our phones, because it was close to evening and we usually charge up at night.
Yes.
So we didn't have much power on our cell phones either.
So we did have navionics on our phone and our iPad, but with limited battery. So the decision was made, let's pull up anchor. Of course, when you have no power, we did have engines. So I should add, the engines would start, not a problem, because the battery management system doesn't stop those batteries from working. So the engine started, but the way the Bali 4.6 is set up, it gets its power for the windlass from the central battery system, which is great because it means you don't have to have the engines running. But in this case, it was not so good because even though the engines were running, we had no windlass. So we had to pull up by hand the anchor.
And we had 60 metre of chain out.
Yes, so we're in 20 metre depth. So at any time you're pulling up 20 metres of 10 mil Chromex stainless steel chain, which is heavy, probably about 50 kilos. So Scott and myself were able to hand pull that up. We were using the hand crank on the windlass to try to winch it up, but you can't lift up that amount of chain just by cranking the handle. There's not enough leverage. So what you have to do is one of us would hand crank and the other would pull up a metre or so of the chain each time.
But I think the fun thing is when the guys went down there in the anchor bay to start using the manual winch to get the chain up, we discovered the lid, the lid over. It goes up this high, and where's the crank? It's here. So you couldn't use it because the lid was stopping it from going around. So then, of course, we had to scramble, get some tools and get the hydraulic lifts off and just tip it back so they actually can get to it. So it was a little bit chaotic there for a while.
So we've found, actually subsequently looked at, we've talked to Bali, they're doing a slight redesign on the lid so that you can do that. But actually we've looked at a number of other brands of boats, all have the same problem. They haven't designed you to be able to use the hand crank on the windlass if you need it. So if you have a catamaran yourself or a monohull, check it to make sure you can use it. So we pulled that up until we got to the point where we had just the 20 metres of chain and the anchor on the seabed. At this point, we started to drag anchor slightly because not much chain in the water.
And while the guys were down there trying to deal with the anchor, I was on the helm station because the waves were getting into the 2.5 metre range. So I needed to be up there on the throttles and trying to keep the boat about 10 meters away from, because there was no shore, it was just cliffs. So I was trying to keep the boat about 10 meters off the cliffs.
We were probably 100 metres away.
Oh,
it
no,
it
not
seemed like
behind me.
it seemed like 10
Yeah,
metres.
it seems like 10 meters.
It was of 100 metres, but at that point, a thunderstorm hit us. We had lightning all around us, so we all ran inside, and the waves really picked up, probably to 30, 40 knots wind. The storm passed happily within probably half an hour, but that was another lesson: is these things don't happen in isolation. You never have one problem; it's multiple things at once.
It usually happens in tweets.
So we came back out and then had to work out how to get the 45 kilo anchor and the attached 20 metre chain off the seabed. Now we've seen other people come up with ways of doing it. Some have just cut the chain and left it. We didn't want to do that, and we had a solution. We've seen this on a couple of other YouTube sailing channels. The trick is you get your halyard. In our case, it was our Code Zero halyard. We tied that to the chain, and then we hand winched up the halyard, pulling the chain up into the air, about 5 meters of chain at a time. We didn't want to have 20 meters of chain times 2, because it goes up and back down again. We didn't want to have that much chain swaying around in the breeze, but we would take up about 5 meters of chain with the halyard attached, then lock off the chain, lower the halyard, untie it from the chain, reattach it to the chain, and continue on, and including the final part where we hauled up the anchor, got that back into the anchor bay. So the whole process took us an hour and a half.
Yeah, an hour and a half, close to 2 hours.
So by this stage it was getting quite dim. The sun had gone down, but no problems. We had our navionics on our phone, thank goodness.
We had about 45 minutes of daylight left.
Yeah, so we motored down back to Denia. It was a very easy passage. By the time we got to Denia Marina, it was totally dark, but well lit with channel markers. Well, of course, we had no nav lights, no steamy light, no nothing. But we had torches and so on.
And there was a guy on the dock waiting for us with a flashlight, so he guided us into where we needed to stay.
So we made it back. We made it back to Denia. What lessons did we learn out of it? We always look at these things as, okay, stuff happens. That's what happens when you're a boat. But what do we learn for next time? So probably the first thing I learnt was understanding your boat better. Now, I hadn't at that point learnt how to connect my phone through the Victron app into our Victron system to see what was happening. If I had, I would have seen that the temperature sensor, which had been wired in incorrectly, was not working. And as a result, the ventilation fan wasn't coming on. That's why the battery management system shut down, because it was over 40 degrees and it shut itself down because it was too hot.
And we didn't know, because we hadn't made ourselves familiar enough, and that's on us, that it was actually a main switch in the engine bay that could turn them back on again.
Yes. So as well as the switches for all the electrics, which are in the Bali manual, which we switched off and on, there are separate switches for the new battery management system, which I didn't know existed. I then learnt with a simple email the next day, flick the switch off and on, that reset the alarms, all of our systems came back on.
I think another very, very important lesson we learned that night is that because of the training we had, Dean and I, we didn't panic. We knew what to do. We were giving, it's harsh to say, but we were giving orders to the crew and telling them exactly what to do, when to do it, and made sure they understood what we were doing. And because we then established a chain of command and they actually did what we asked them to do, there was no injuries, there was no broken boat, there was no broken arms and toes or anything, and everybody actually stayed very calm and did what they needed to do. There
was no yelling and screaming. We just worked each problem, and of course there were multiple problems, and the problems seemed to be mounting, but you just work each problem, which we did. We worked. The first problem was, how do we get that damn anchor off the seabed? that was probably the biggest problem. How do we avoid getting hit by lightning?
Yes.
Which we didn't really do anything to avoid getting hit by lightning other than standing inside to make sure we didn't get hit.
We were lucky we weren't the tallest point because we had some cliffs behind us with a couple of trees on.
Yes.
So we were hoping that would be enough to actually persuade the lightning to go anywhere else than us if it came close to us.
Yeah. So the big lesson I took out of it was learn the electronic systems of your boat much better. We have all Victron equipment. It's fantastic. The amount of information you get, not just off the servo screen, but off the actual apps that will connect to your phone, your laptop, your iPad, is amazing. You can see absolutely everything that's going on. And if I'd monitored that more carefully, I would have seen something was going wrong before it completely went wrong and the system shut down. The following day, all the systems came back to normal. There was no permanent damage. It protected itself from damage. But as a result of that, I was able then to investigate getting the temperature sensor wired in correctly to better understand the electronics. I actually added in another fan so that if on a really hot day, which of course you can get in the Med, and you're generating a lot of heat from the batteries. As you're charging the batteries, they generate a lot of heat. So having extra fans to cope with that, to keep it cool enough to not get the error again. We never had the problem again since. We learnt an awful lot. Our crew that we had with us,
They were good sports.
they were great sports, handled it very well. We all learnt a lot, and the next day we were sitting around the pool at the marina laughing about what had happened, but thankful we'd all got through it.
And as I said earlier, Dina and I learned that, yes, when something happens, we actually do respond in a way that doesn't create panic. And that actually came in handy a couple of days later, which is another story we will tell you soon. Join us next time as we say goodbye to Denia and sail over towards Ibiza. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate your support.